Hello YouTube, I am Joe. Today I thought I'd show you in a mock exercise how to make a better finish on a piece of wood with a regular sharp blade that's in good shape without going out of hand and getting the best blade on earth. And it really relies on how strong your fence is. Fences are all good and strong right here. But when you get to the end of the cut, even though you're putting, let's say, 2 pounds of force against the fence, that 2 pounds is multiplying like mad as you go towards the back of the fence. And dare you let off the load in the back of the fence, well, now you've closed the gap between the wood and the blade, and you now have a missile on your hand. So one must always maintain that exact load till you're done with the cut. And again, it's making your wood actually be out of square, and I can prove that to you. After you just cut one piece of wood, bring it out of the saw, take a mic, put a mic on it, digital mic, and you'll have two differences. This is going to be narrower and this is going to be wider here. Try that sometime. And you can prove it to yourself also by flipping your lumber over. And as soon as you start, you're going to see a whisper cut starting on that end. And it's only because that fence was moving very slightly. You're actually making things out of square very slightly too. Your drop that is falling off, let's say, your piece, let's say you had another piece over here that is cut off, that now is slightly off too, obviously. So it helps you all the way around to have your fence as rigid as you can get it. And I'm going to show you how to do that for those special cuts. Most times it really doesn't matter that much, but sometimes it really can. Let's have a look. Now, before we get into this, I'd like to mention, sure, this is a unifence, and there aren't many of these out there. You guys all have something different, a Biesmeyer, who knows what you have. But the deal is this, make sure that what adjustments you do have on your fence are snug. Make sure you don't have any rack that's going on your fence. Make sure it's locked down properly before you start all this. Because if any of this is loose, well, obviously your cut will never be good either. So just something to pay attention to. One other thing that is important to notice is the lumber itself. If you're going to run some lumber through that's got a lot of walk in it, that's the trouble waiting to happen. Lumber that's even plain such as this should have no problem whatsoever. You have enough flat going on. You shouldn't have that lumber moving around side to side or what have you. But it's very important to note that if you can sight down a piece of lumber with your eye and you don't have any walk in that and it looks flat as a pool table, well, then you're pretty much sure that as you're running it through, this face will always be consistent to this table. If that's running through and it's moving around in here, of course we can never have a good finish. Another item that's worth mentioning is a good support system before the table and after the table, that they're level. So that the only thing you're going to do on those days that you need this perfect edge, as good as you can get it, is just to move it through gently and slowly. So that your attention's only being held to just that little bit of tension down and that little bit of tension in, versus trying to manipulate the piece of wood, because your different pressures in manipulating a piece of wood will show up in your finish. So this is just a tip to mitigate some of that before you even get started. Now let's have a look at what happens at the end of the blade, or at the end of the fence, while you're moving a piece through, pretending to cut it. Let's have a look. Okay, for this test, I'm going to run a piece of wood through the saw, pretending. Watch that line very carefully. You're going to see real light flexing at the end of my cut from just minor pressure on the fence. All right, I'm pretending to begin the cut now. 2, 3, 4, and I'm done. Did you see that flex? That flex is the reason a lot of your edges don't look real clean. I'm going to show you a way that you can support the edge of that fence and get rid of that light walk that's in most every fence on earth, except for maybe the Incra fence. Let's have a look. Okay, and here's what I'm talking about. How you lock in the back edge of the fence with whatever it might be you have that you can lock down on one end. A real gentle kiss on this end here so that you don't deviate from where your fence is set though. But the idea here is to use this and utilize this really for me only when I'm going to do glue up. That's the only time I really care about having that face as perfect as I can make it. Otherwise it doesn't even make sense. You're just whipping parts through. Who cares if the edge is a little rowdy. One other thing to mention before we finish, one more tip. How much blade runout do you have? Even though your fence now has been fixed to perfection, if the blade has too much runout in it, you're never going to have a really good finish. You need to pick your blades with the least amount of runout to attempt your best finishes. And again, if you can afford those forest blades, well, the runout game is over. But a good way to check for runout if you don't have the tools to do it, and it's a real fast way, is just turn the saw on and off really quick and just watch what's happening with the blade. I can hear that the bearings are in poor shape, but I didn't see a lot of walk left or right, but it looks like the blade's going up and down for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe it's just the light. But again, we're attempting to mitigate all the problems to make the smoothest cut possible without going to the crazy blades. So if you use your best blade possible, tighten up your fence nice, and then support it from the back corner, you got a really good shot at easily having awesome cuts that'll glue up right away and are ready to go without a joiner. You guys take care. Let me know what you think.